So at this point, I'm 35 years old, and I've been an NBA fan since I was about 5 or 6 years old. And honestly, it feels even longer than that because my dad was religiously recording every NBA game he could on VHS tapes. My childhood was watching those games on repeat. I wasn't alive to see Magic and Bird in their prime, but I was able to see those tapes of Magic, Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Tom Chambers, Adrian Dantley, and so on doing their thing in the 1980s. So with that being said, I've seen a lot of guys come and go. I've seen a lot of guys who were hyped up and who were advertised as the next big thing, just for them to peter out and end up not being all that talked about a couple decades later. It's almost like I'm able to recognize certain patterns with certain players. And I gotta say, as I'm watching the modern NBA today, I think there's certain stars who are starting to get older in their careers, and if they don't have something significant change, like another MVP award or an NBA championship, then they are in danger of becoming one of those forgotten players over time. And I don't mean it literally. If you were watching these stars play in today's day, then sure, 20 years from now, you're still personally going to remember that guy. When I say they'll be forgotten, I mean forgotten by the basketball community. You will be in the minority if you're talking about these guys 20 years from now. So I'm going to bring up some names of some modern players, but I also wanted to make comparisons to players from past eras. That way you can see what I'm talking about and understand how a player of this caliber and career can end up being forgotten over time. First off, Damian Lillard. This 6'2" point guard is a 9-time All-Star and a 7-time All-NBA player. He's one of the best three-point shooters of his era, and in his prime in Portland, he was basically a walking bucket. Unfortunately, he's now in his mid-30s and has had some significant injuries. And I do think he could have been a championship caliber player in the right situation. But because he spent so much of his career in Portland on a mediocre team, he didn't really get that many opportunities to contend. I personally will remember this guy as one of the premier perimeter scorers of his era. But many years from now, I don't think his name is going to be brought up all that much. A player he's similar to that basically no one talks about anymore is Nate Tiny Archibald. Both of these guys were small point guards who could score a bucket at will. Damian Lillard had a season where he averaged as high as 32 points per game, while Archibald had a season where he averaged as much as 34. Now, Tiny is recognized by the league itself as he did make it into the Basketball Hall of Fame. And just like Lillard, he is in the NBA's 75th anniversary team. But again, as a point guard who is a score-first player and who doesn't have any championship success as the leader of their team, I think it's fair to expect Lillard to be forgotten just like Archibald is. The next player who's in line to be forgotten is Donovan Mitchell. He's a 6'3" shooting guard / point guard, and he can score the basketball in bunches. He's never won an NBA championship, but he is a 6-time All-Star and a 2nd-time All-NBA player. He's basically viewed as a Tier 2 star, and due to the fact that he spent all of his career in small market organizations, he just isn't celebrated on the same level as many stars within the league today. From a skill set, size, and scoring standpoint, one of the guys he really reminds me of is Mitch Richmond of the 1990s. During that era, Richmond played for unsuccessful organizations like the Golden State Warriors, the Sacramento Kings, and the Washington Wizards. Richmond didn't get many nationally televised games to showcase his talents, even though he was one of the premier scorers of his era. If Mitchell continues the trajectory he's on, while continuing to play for the less popular franchises, then I think he's destined to join the forgotten group alongside of Mitch Richmond. Now this next one is gonna sound wild, and a lot of people are gonna think I'm crazy for even suggesting it, but I'm going with a recent MVP winner in Joel Embiid. Now let's look at what he's accomplished. He's a 7-time All-Star, a 5-time All-NBA player, and he has 3 All-Defense Team selections. He's also a 2-time scoring champion and was the 2023 MVP award. So with a resume like that, you're probably asking yourself, how in the world could this fantastic big man be forgotten? Well, unfortunately, he basically never shows up in the playoffs when it matters the most. And along with that, he's often overshadowed by the more successful big men of his era. A player who he really reminds me of is the center/power forward Bob McAdoo. This guy is in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and like Embiid, he was an MVP winner in 1975. He was a 5-time All-Star, was the Rookie of the Year in 1973, and he has 3 scoring titles. McAdoo was rivaling Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the 1970s for the title of the best player in the entire league. But again, Kareem clearly came out on top of that race. So in a way that's similar to Embiid, he is overshadowed by a greater big man. Here's the crazy part though. Bob McAdoo does actually have 2 championship rings to his name, but he achieved those in the twilight years of his career with the Los Angeles Lakers as he was coming off the bench. If a former MVP winner who averaged as high as 35 points per game and who has 2 NBA championships to his name can be forgotten 30 to 40 years later by the basketball community, then you can bet your ass that Joel Embiid will be as well, especially considering how he consistently underperforms in the postseason. The last player on my list of the eventual forgotten players is Paul George. This 6'8" wing is a talented two-way player. He's a 9-time NBA All-Star, a 6-time All-NBA player, and he does have 4 All-Defense Team selections to his name. He doesn't have any championship success, and he's never been to the NBA Finals. And in more recent years, there has been questions about his dedication and commitment, considering how he seems to like doing his podcast rather than putting in the extra work. Now there's actually a guard who had a pretty similar career to Paul George in the sense that he was a great two-way player. He was a 20 to 24 points per game scorer, just like George was throughout the vast majority of his career, and he was an elite defensive player. And I'm talking about Sidney Moncrief. Sure, he's about 4 inches shorter than George, but when you look at their accolades, they're actually pretty similar, as Moncrief has 5 All-NBA teams to George's 6, and 5 All-Defense Team selections to George's 4. Moncrief was a pretty competitive player with the Milwaukee Bucks, as they did have a few good runs in the NBA playoffs. But just like PG-13, he was never able to break through, and couldn't quite take his game to the next level and win an MVP award. If George's career continues on the trajectory it's on, then I think he'll rarely be remembered as one of the more underrated two-way players of basketball lore. So these are just my thoughts and the things I'm recognizing based on my own experiences. But now I want to hear yours. Who are players in recent basketball history or even in the NBA today that you think 10, 20, 30 years from now, almost no one will be talking about? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.